Hey, and welcome back to the #1 podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 147. I didn't record an episode last week. I skipped it because I had nothing to talk about. I realized my head had just been buried in the sand for like a week and a half up to that point, finishing the Gizmondo video. And I pulled it out, and I was like, what happened? Where is anyone? Where'd everybody go? I feel like I woke, like everyone in the world could have vanished. You know, I could have been like the last man on earth type situation. And I wouldn't have even noticed. I'd be like, I gotta get this out. I gotta get this video out. I gotta make the thumbnail. So I just had nothing to talk about, and I was like, why don't I just skip it? So I'm sorry if you rely on my voice for, like, sleep aid or something like that. Does anybody fall asleep to this podcast? You know, it's so funny. One of the last times Kat was over, it was getting a little late, and we were like, maybe we should go to bed. We should go to sleep soon. And a video by Bafale popped up. If you don't know, Bafale is a Street Fighter guy. He's like a Street Fighter guy, and he does streams, and he had the series, which he hasn't made a new one in forever, but I really like them. They're called Bad Balance, which are just him breaking down, because he is so intimately familiar with all of these games, breaking down either characters who were too strong or too weak in various Street Fighter games. I don't think he's ever gone outside of Street Fighter. So the thing about those videos is they are extremely informative. If you are curious about, like, hey, why was Sagat so strong in vanilla Street Fighter 4? That is a great resource for that. Like, he is very extensive. He is really clear and to the point. His visuals are the I'll call them straightforward, yeah. But he's also like a really monotone medical student who is like clearly not an entertainer. Like he is writing a thesis paper, not a YouTube video. It is extremely dry. Those videos are extremely dry, and I was like, yeah, and she was like, oh god, I've seen this guy's videos before. Like, one came up for me, and I just fell asleep. And I was like, I love Bafale. I listen to him to go to sleep all the time. I put on, like, the playlist of all the Bad Balances, and it's great. And I'm not kidding you, I clicked on it. It was like the one on Arcade Edition Yun. And I am not kidding you. She fell asleep within a minute. She just clocked out from like relatively awake to just unconscious on the bed. It was really funny. Yeah, that video is like 30 minutes too. Like incredible. Well, a lot of people, a couple of you guys on the last episode informed me that Back to the Future does indeed have an animated series. I was not aware of that. Maybe I'd never heard of it. Maybe I could have done 5 seconds of research to figure out if there was one, but I don't know. I'd never heard of it. But I don't know. I looked it up, and yep, that definitely looks like something that called Back to the Future the Animated Series. I found out something kind of interesting just from a cursory glance at the Wikipedia page. So apparently it was like an animated series, but they had these live action segments with some of the original actors, actually. And it was like Doc Brown in his science lab doing like educational stuff, and his lab assistant is played by none other than Bill Nye the science guy, before he had his own show. Bill Nye was he played the assistant, and he was also the actual like science advisor for the show, to make sure that, you know, everything they were teaching was correct. And that actually led to him getting his own show. So that's kind of crazy. His role on the Back to the Future animated series in the live action like segments led to like one of the most influential educational science programs from the 90s. You know? What a weird chain of events. The career path, I suppose. Yeah. There were no questions from last time, really. So I kind of want to just jump right into something very funny from the past week. So AT&T, the cell phone service provider, has been doing this tournament series. They've done it a couple times. I don't know which one they're on, like the 6th one, or I don't know. I feel like this is at least the third one I've heard of, called the Annihilator Cup. You know how difficult it was? I had to like go double check that I was spelling annihilator right. It's nihil, like nihilism, ator. Annihilator. Which makes sense, but it's one of those words that you don't really think about because you read it so quickly. As soon as you know what the word is, it's just, oh, you know, you don't read it very closely because there's so many letters in it. But yeah, they've been doing this thing called the Annihilator Cup, and the idea is that it's kind of this big old marketing thing for multiple games and multiple companies and multiple streamers, where they get a bunch of streamers from like Twitch and stuff and YouTube, I suppose, and they have them compete in it's like a 6-week tournament series where each weekend is a different game. And they're like arranged into teams or something like that. Something of that sort. And this only came into my purview because I think, oh yeah, like 2 years ago, they did one in one of the featured games with Street Fighter V. Like in its very, very last months, like literally like a couple months before 6 came out, they did 5, which I guess was just like a poor scheduling. I don't even know if you'd say poor, just like how the scheduling worked out. And I think I might have even talked about it when it happened, because so what I find fun about these tournaments is that I see people go, oh, it's just a bunch of streamers, and it's like, yeah, no, that's what's awesome about it, because a bunch of people don't know what the fuck they're doing. I love watching people who don't know how to play fighting games. Genuinely, like, it's not, there's games where I watch it. I remember being, playing League of Legends and watching really bad League of Legends players, and it was like painful. It was like a painful experience. I love watching low-level fighting games. It is so much fun. Because people, like, kind of half understand how to do things, but they keep fucking it up. And there's, like, this constant tension. The imperfection adds this quality to it where, like, when you watch really high-level play, you know when someone, like, whiffs a DP or something, you're like, oh my god, they're gonna get punished to fucking hell and back. And you just know, you just see the other person, like, get the hit to start the combo, and you're like, okay, I know exactly where this is going. Like, I know what the next 7 seconds are going to look like. But when you watch something like this, someone whiffs a DP, and just, like, it is the most insane, frantic scramble, as nobody knows what to do, and the other guy's like, oh, fuck, oh, what, they're, like, throwing out supers and doing all sorts of random shit, and they're, like, constantly dropping combos. And so stuff that in any other tournament you'd watch would just be like, oh yeah, they just always hit Luke perfect charge fucking knuckle. Here it's like, oh shit, he undercharged it, the combo dropped, oh no. I think stuff like that is a lot of fun, because it's kind of a surprise to everybody involved, including me. Well, yeah, especially the audience. And this specific Annihilator Cup that they had recently for 6, had a really interesting little wrinkle to it. So, one of the things that has been a constant, or it's been a growing kind of pain point for Street Fighter 6 is that the game is a little content dry in its updates, right? As a base game, it's incredible, but Capcom has been very slow. I've talked about this before, but they've been very slow with kind of adding either content that people really want, like character costumes, and the big one is balance changes, and that's more of a philosophy thing. Capcom has committed, for now at least, to one balance patch a year, which I think is a little too long. I think that's a little too far apart to balance your to like any change. There was a minor patch a few months ago that added like a couple little changes, which was very refreshing. It was like kind of like a drop of water in the desert, but yeah. In some ways there's upsides to it, because like, okay, so some of the upsides are it's really interesting to watch characters get developed over the course of an entire year. It's kind of like something that you see with older games, right? That are like done, they're in end of life, and suddenly you just see kind of year over year, it's like, oh shit, this character who was considered maybe kind of bad or was kind of a mid-tier, people kind of start figuring them out. And now you end up in a situation where, like, yeah, you know, at the start of the game, characters like Guile were considered really strong. And now, like, oh, actually, Blanca is really good. This might be one of Blanca's best versions in a Street Fighter game. Stuff like that is cool. But you also have the fact that, like, okay, from day one, people knew that JP and Ken were, like, the best characters in the game. And they're still, like, the best characters in the game. Right? So there's some stuff that hasn't been figured out, or that didn't get figured out, and there's some stuff that was very obvious and is enduring. And I think that's the stuff that people are a little more like, okay, I just kind of wish there was a little bit of a shakeup. So with the one of the big things with the upcoming Akuma patch, which drops tomorrow, as I'm recording this, is it not only is Akuma coming to the game, there's also a full big ass whole game balance patch. Patch or pass? They both work. So this has been like, it's like Akuma, but like, oh my god, give me the patch notes, give me the patch notes. And Capcom has been doing the funniest goddamn thing with it. They have been teasing patch notes for like weeks at this point. They flew out a bunch of like fighting game YouTubers to get like a hands-on preview of Akuma, and they did one of those at like Evo Japan. Pretty sure they flew some people out to their offices in like San Francisco or something to get to record some footage, and they're like, okay, you get training mode with a couple specific characters, and we're gonna give you the patch notes for a couple specific characters. Like, they wouldn't just release the full patch notes. Like, okay. Part of that, I imagine, might be like some characters were still like didn't have finalized changes yet, so they didn't want to like show that off before they were ready to ship the patch. Or they might have been bug testing or something like that. So there could have been a practical reason, but also part of me wants to say that they were just being a little troll. They might have been doing a little trolling with it. They released a video showing off a couple of the changes for every character. They've been very cagey about what is actually in the Season 2 balance patch. And there's like this anxiety around it. And then they announce, hey, the AT&T Annihilator Cup is going to be played on the Akuma patch, aka the Season 2 balance update. So some people were pissed. I thought that was funny as fuck. That is something I would do. So basically, a bunch of streamers, most of which have no idea how to play Street Fighter, are being saddled with this new game, which most of them probably haven't even played before, And they can't even look up accurate information about the game because no one knows what the changes are. They can't, if they go on like the Super Combo wiki to be like, what's like a basic overview of my character? I don't know, dude. Your character might have been completely changed from one patch to the next. Like, who knows? And I think that is so funny. Plus, there's this new character that no one knows anything about with Akuma. There's like very, very basic stuff, like hands-on, known with him. Like frame data is not. I'm pretty sure like frame data was not finalized or anything. Like, oh my god, that is so funny. That is such a funny move. So everyone was watching. It was like they just sent these fucking streamers out to die in like the Roman Colosseum blood sport. And people were like watching these streams, watching this like below beginner level play, trying to eke out the changes in the patch. It is so funny. Some people were mad. I think it's hilarious. This is why you can't invest yourself in a single game. Because I'm like, you know, I love Street Fighter 6, but I've got lots of other games that I can play. So I can just kind of sit back and say, you know what? That was a really funny prank that you guys pulled, Capcom. I can't wait. I wasn't super excited. I personally wasn't. It would be nice, I guess, at least as a spectator, to see to get the balance changes. But I wasn't like, because I play Marisa, and you know, I can't really think. Marisa doesn't feel like a particularly. I was trying to think like, what would I really want from Marisa that isn't just like really silly wish fulfillment, like you know, like the stuff that's excessive. Like, oh, make her crouch medium punch a low. Like, yeah. Like, you know, the character is designed in a certain way, and I think she's pretty good at doing what she's designed to do. And there's nothing in her kit that feels especially overpowered. She's kind of one of those characters who's destined to always be like a mid-tier. Because she's designed with very clear weaknesses, and then some really intense strengths. And sometimes it's like, well, some characters are just able to exploit those really easily, and other ones might have a little more of a struggle. And she just kind of, you know, she just kind of tries to like assert her strengths before people can exploit her weaknesses. That's just sort of the character that she is. They made like literally like the one. There's like two changes. One of them is she had a target combo. She has a lot of target combos, and a lot of them are like not super useful. Like you don't use them very much. She had the one that they changed that we know of right now is she had like the two forward heavy kick again, which it was like this double knee attack, and you never use that like ever. Especially because forward heavy kick was special cancelable anyway, so you would just like special cancel it. So you would never use that target combo, but they made it launch, so you might actually be able to get something off of it. Maybe, I don't know. There could be something cool with it. It could be like a big. I could see it being used. She has a little bit of an issue with like with punishing at certain ranges. That could be like a sort of bazooka knee type normal for her now. Like, oh, big lunge forward, because it actually has a pretty good hurt box. Lunge forward, and then you can get like the you can get like a good launcher out of it into like level 2 or something. I don't know. And then her fucking fully charged non-counter hit stand heavy punch is like more plus on hit, so you get like a new combo route off of it. It's like, that's nice. That's cool. A lot of her, yeah, like how would you really buff her? I don't know. How would you really nerf her? I don't know. Yeah, so that was the Annihilator Cup. Did I have anything else to mention on that? I don't know. You always end up with some very funny reactions from people who are not, like, you're like, oh my god, like, you watch the gameplay and you're like, oh my god, oh no, he doesn't know how to block. He doesn't know how to block low. Oh no, no one ever told him how to block low, or he forgot. Oh no. And they just keep getting swept over and over again. There's like this dude, his name is like Sketch or something. He had the funniest reactions. He's constantly wearing like a football jersey, and he's just going, "What do I do? What do I do? How do I stop her? Why do I stop her?" He just gets like throw looped by Cammy like 5 times in a row. It's awesome. This is blood sport. Yeah. So that was the Annihilator Cup and all that silly business. Speaking of fighting games, which I always am, I dipped my toe a little bit into Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I did that because some of my interest was reignited because of some recent developments with a mod for the game, a modded shader, a basically new graphical style for it, which is being developed by I think their name is Rin, like a modder named Rin, who is working and I think partially being literally paid, contracted by the streamer YouTuber Maximilian Dude. Because he loves Marvel Infinite, but like the game is ugly as sin, and that's something he was always pretty upfront about. That's like the first thing people really noticed about it, was that it's not a good looking game. And I saw, like, I have touched that game, like, a little bit in the past. I think I played it, like, once. But I saw, oh, Christ, my neck. Ooh, that was weird. Like a weird pain in my neck. All right. I saw a screenshot of this, basically this new shading, lighting engine, not engine, but, like, filter. It's just a mod, like a visual mod. Makes it look super comic booky. Not even like in a Marvel 3-way, honestly more like City of the Wolves, like the new Fatal Fury game that's coming out, that has a really comic booky looking style with like the screen toning, which are like the little like dots in the shading and stuff, and just the colors and the thick outlines and stuff like that. And there's like a couple screenshots that I'm like, whoa. This looks great. Like, these screenshots make me want to play the game now, if it looked like this. So, in anticipation of that, it's still like a work in progress, although apparently it's coming along pretty nicely. And in anticipation of that, I booted the game up. Now, okay, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, what were the big problems with it? Number one, the game is really fucking ugly. Like, it looks bad. Like, I booted it up. Ryu's on the title screen. He looks like shit. He barely looks like Ryu. Some of the characters look decent, like the more metallic robot-looking characters, because it has such a realistic lighting engine and all that. And the characters who are meant to look like, it's kind of shiny. It looks like fucking Jump Force. And so the characters who already kind of look like plastic, like X or Zero, or I think Ultron looks pretty decent. I love that it's classic comic Ultron, not movie Ultron too. Thanos, I think, actually looks pretty good overall. Like, characters like that, Iron Man, those characters, the metallic ones, look decent, but a lot of like the human or humanoid characters, ooh, they do not look like fucking meth head Dante, who they actually fixed his face a little bit before release, but there's just a certain extent where, like, dude, you just have to like remodel that shit. Like, it, the infamous Chun-Li. Why the fuck does Chun-Li look like that? She looks like a pug. Again, they kind of fixed it. Like, it's crazy. You look at like Street Fighter V Chun. You're like, wow, she looks really nice. And then you look at Infinite and you're like, oh, Jesus. Morrigan's weird fucking anime bug eye. She looks like that live action Battle Angel Alita movie. Just lots of visual misses all around. Lots of just lacking in visual flair. Very flat looking game. Also huge problems with the roster. It was developed at a time, and it kills me so much. This was developed before Disney had the rights to the X-Men and Fantastic Four characters. Now, when you're making a Marvel vs. Capcom game, that's kind of a problem. Now, they were in Marvel 3, right? That had Doom and Sentinel and Magneto and all those guys, right? But now that was Marvel 3 was post Disney deal. And I'm pretty sure what happened with Infinite was basically just that Marvel was way more sticklers about it, and they're like, no, you can't. Disney doesn't want us to include any characters that they don't have the film rights to. Mind you, this was at the same time that they just like, what the fuck? What didn't they just like completely tank the Fantastic Four books and like end them for a bit because to like sink the value of the property so that they could buy the film rights back or whatever? Like that was how mercenary they were being with these goddamn rights. Copyright is such a bitch. And so I am pretty certain something like that was applied to this game, where they were like, no, you can't use these characters, we don't own them, or they don't have the film rights. And that's a problem, because when you think of a Marvel vs. Capcom game, literally some of the most infamous, well-known characters are all X-Men and Fantastic Four characters. Like, who are literally the four, like, gods of Marvel 2 are all X-Men. Magneto, Storm, Sentinel, Cable. And then Psylocke's also really good. Cyclops is really good, like, assist. There's, like, a good assist characters. In Marvel 3, Magneto's top tier, as well as, like, Doom. Dr. Doom is insane. Like, those are like, well established, like, not even just, oh, I have a connection to the character from the comics. Like, those characters have, like, people have connections to playing those characters in these games, and you don't have them, and it's like, ugh. So the roster is a little bit, like, also you can tell there's some budget problems. You can tell there's budget problems with making, like, new models and stuff. I have a strong suspicion this might have even been confirmed that a lot of the models were ported over from Marvel 3. And you know why I say that is because of the character design. So number one, they have Spencer. Why the fuck would you bring Spencer back? Number two, look at some of the character designs. It's RE5 Chris. Not RE6, which would have been the most recent version of the character, I'm pretty sure. RE5 Chris with the green shirt and all that. Oh, there's another one. There's totally another one. MVCI roster. There's totally another one that I was like, ooh, this is the character from the last game. Ooh, where is it? No, that's a fan roster. What the heck? Why am I not seeing it? Oh, it's DMC3 Dante. You're like, what? They didn't update it or anything to the at least like the design from 4 or something, right? Like DMC4 Dante. Yeah, like they didn't. It's it's pretty clear that, like, okay, they just took these character designs that were, like, out of date at the time and ported them over. Some of the faces look really bad. It seems like it was just a budget operation, which is not what you want to do with a game like this, right? And if they just waited a couple years, they would have had the X-Men. They would have had Fantastic Four. They could have had those characters. And it was, I don't know, it completely failed to excite people in the ways that a fighting game really needs to, where you look at a character and you're like, you look at a character and you look at the game and you look at the visuals and you're like, dude, I want to play this. With like that feeling that I had when I saw that screenshot of the mod. So I went in and I played the game, and you know what the worst part of the game is? I'm not kidding. Straight up, the worst part of the game is that it's actually really fun. That game is really fucking fun. Oh my god. Dude, this sucks. I'm like, dude, that's like the worst part. It's like listening to an album or something, and you're like, dude, this was so close. It's so close to being amazing, but there's just like a little thing in every song that kind of holds it back, right? It's like one of the the fact that it was so close to greatness, but it was held back by this bullshit is so frustrating. That is a really fun game. I think I probably like it a little more than Marvel 3, actually. And I can explain why. So the major changeover from 3 to Infinite was Infinite went from 3v3 to a 2v2 plus they kind of replaced that third character with one of the Infinity Stones, where you would be able to pick one of the 6 Infinity Stones or Infinity Gems? Should be stones, right? They're kind of synonyms. And then that would give you like a unique ability. And then it would also have like a super powered up like fucking thing that you could pop that was different per stone. So you might be like, oh well, it's less deep because there's less characters, and I don't really feel like the stones really make up for it. But every character individually feels a lot more fleshed out than they do in Marvel 3. In Marvel 3, there's some very surprisingly basic characters, like where it feels like they just kind of like threw together a sort of very general moveset for them. And there aren't that many interesting wrinkles to it or little details or facets of them. And that's kind of intentional because it's a 3v3 game. You need 3 characters, and if every single character is really deep and really unique with that big of a roster, it's kind of like a little bit overwhelming. Part of the idea of a team game is that you're sort of, the characters that you put on your team sort of make up one single like gestalt of a character, right? Where like, oh, I'm gonna pick this character to add this to my team, this character to bring this to my team, and this character for this. And that's kind of how that game operates. Infinite brings a lot more focus to the individual characters and gives them just like neat little mechanics and sort of cool little, they're not like incredibly deep, right? They're not like, I don't know, something like you'd find in like an Arxis game, right? Where it's like, oh my god, they have all these, a bunch of different moves and all these weird interactions and stuff. But there's just like these, cool ideas, like X has all of it, which by the way, I love the pick of finally having X and Zero in the same game. And X gets this thing where he can do like a special and then hit a button and get like unique follow-ups off of, he has like these a corresponding follow-up to every single button, and you can do these like cool little combos of like throw the boomerang and then do the ice thing and then do and it's like, it's one of those things that really feels like it invites some experimentation, where I just had a lot of fun going into training mode. Also, it's a 4-button game, which Marvel 3 is still technically a 4-button game, but Infinite has like light and heavy punches and kicks, which means that there are really like 2 versions of every special. And I think that actually kind of works in its favor, because in Marvel 3 sometimes, I feel this with like Street Fighter 2 a lot, whenever you have like 4 different versions of one special move, a lot of times, like, at least one of them is going to be kind of underused. Like, do you never, like, I was just thinking about this. playing like Third Strike Dudley, do you ever use anything besides EX Machine Gun Blow? No, you never use the light, medium, or heavy versions. You use the light version in like one single cool, like stylish combo, which is neat. It's a cool combo, but like you're never using medium fucking Machine Gun Blow. Come on. So there's kind of like a little bit of like wasted, kind of feels like wasted space. In Infinite, only having 2 versions of each move lets them kind of give each version a distinctive sort of purpose to it. So just playing Ghost Rider, right? And I'm like, oh, cool. So he's got this like chain whip special. And one of the versions causes like a wall bounce, and the other one causes like, what is it? The other one is like the light version causes a wall bounce, and the heavy version is like this big like combo ender slam thing. So yeah, it is like the same move, but they actually have pretty different utilities in how they're actually used. And everything, it feels like so many characters, they paid a lot of attention to actually giving them cool options off of stuff. Like, I was playing fucking Nemesis, and Nemesis is a character I was like, oh damn, that would be a cool character to play in Marvel 3, and then I kind of tried just like messing around with him, and I was like, oh man, he does not get a lot. He doesn't get a lot. Like, it's cool to win with him because he's like a low tier character, but he's low tier for a reason, and he is certainly like really limited. Like if you don't have a good OTG option in that game, man, you just do not get to do a lot of stuff. That's why Doom is like such a ubiquitous character in that game, because he just gets it for free. He just gets to hit the fucking heavy attack button, and he just does the fucking like axe kick, axe kick, axe kick, scoop you off the ground. And whenever I would be like, oh man, yeah, I don't see this character a lot. Let me like check them out. Let me see, like, look them up. And the one thing so many of them have in common is they have bad OTGs. They just can't get them, or you have to spend meter for it. They're just like a lower reward character than other members of the roster, and it sucks because it's like, but it would be cool if like they were viable like that. And Infinite feels like at least like a lot of the characters. I'm not an expert on the game. I know that there's like low tiers and stuff like that, but it feels like at least a lot of characters have some really cool attention paid to them to be like, oh no, they actually have cool, unique options. They can actually do stuff. And the fact that it has, instead of the assist system, it has the active tag system. Like, this is a tag game. And it is really easy and really fun to just do like a really quick, simple combo into hit the tag button. The other character rushes in, and then they pick up the combo and do some kind of like ender into a super or something. Like, everyone gets to do that, and it just feels really good, really smooth. Like, everything really feels, there's a great flow to that game. And I thought it was really funny just messing around. Like, I was just messing around with like Ghost Rider stuff for like 30 minutes. Because I was like, oh, I wonder if you can do this. I wonder if you can get this. And just putting together like a little basic combo. And then I decided to go do his character like combo trials. And they were really similar. They were really similar to the ideas that I was having. And I thought that was really neat. That this character could have like... with just a little bit of experimentation, I could come on to like, oh, some actual real stuff. It is a really fun game, and I think I wish we lived in a different world where it got the chance that I think it deserved with that design. Hopefully, I think it would be really neat, dude. That graphical update, that mod, if it gets like fully completed. Which the progress is pretty steady as far as I can tell. If it gets fully completed, I would be so hyped. Like, it is a game, like, I remember I was playing Marvel 3, and I was kind of struggling to find characters that I wanted to put on a team. Right? Like, not a lot of the characters really really stuck out to me, just personally. I was playing Infinite, and like I felt like I had too many options. I felt like, oh my god, like I want to play Ghost Rider, and I want to check out Ultron. And Thanos feels super cool. I love doing his fucking jumping 6H, the fucking palm breaker, like it's such a cool move. Captain America's got really cool stuff in this game. Who else is neat? I literally just had the roster up. If I just look at it, Nemesis is also cool. Yeah, like I played him again. I'm like, wow, he's cooler in this game. He's cooler in this game than in Infinite. Or sorry, than in 3. Gamora was cool. Thor is actually really neat in this game. Captain Marvel, a character I never thought would be interesting. I do not care for the modern Captain Marvel. Actually kind of a cool moveset in this game with like the midair like rush what would you call those, like rush attack or whatever. I'm super down, and God, you know. Do you guys have a game like that? I am really curious. Do you have a game that you're like, this should not have been screwed over the way that it was? I'd be very curious to know, because those are always like, yeah, those kind of like hidden gems. I think at this point I would consider Marvel Infinite a hidden gem. And also the pun is way too good because it's about the infinity gems and all that. Yeah, if we ever got like a MVC 4, right? Like a follow-up or something like that, I wouldn't mind, or another Versus game. I genuinely wouldn't mind if they took more from Infinite than like 3. I think I would be down with exploring that. And I think it's funny because you look at Project L, or sorry, 2XKO. The name is getting a little bit easier to say for me. I still don't like it. And I think it's kind of funny how much inspiration you can see it takes from Infinite, where with like the whole active tag thing, and all that. Like that is such a specific thing to grab from that game. But it's totally true. Like it totally screams that like, oh no, the people developing this are really into fighting games, and they are fucking mad that Infinite failed when it had such a cool idea. I can't believe, I was like watching some tournaments for it, and I was like, okay, there is like one bit that I'm like, okay, no, I see what people don't like about it, which is the fucking super tag, where you can do a super and then tag in after it. And it's not like a DHC or anything where you have to like spend another bar. Like it's free. It's totally free. And at first you're like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool what I get to do. And then it's like, oh, wait. People get to do that to me. Excuse me. I feel like if this game got like a couple more balance passes or something like that, if it wasn't just dropped like fucking Moses in the river to die, it would have been, I imagine at some point they would have made it cost like half a bar of meter or something like that. That seems reasonable to me. Or a full bar. Or a foo bar. What is foo bar? Thoroughly confused, disordered, damaged, or ruined. Wait, doesn't it stand for something? FUBAR acronym. Fucked up beyond all recognition. Like Chun-Li in this game. Anyway. Yeah, so that was my toe dip into Marvel Infinite. I would be down to like, I would love to play that game more, especially when it gets that mod. This got me thinking a little bit about Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And specifically, okay, so recently, for about three Evos now, they've been doing this thing, which is really cool, where, so Evo, they always have, 8 or 9 main stage games. And recently, they've been doing this thing where one of those games is a throwback game. So something old, usually one that's having a like an anniversary or something. It was like the 25th anniversary of Third Strike, and so the most recent Evo Japan had a Third Strike tournament as part of one of the main shows, and it was super cool. And when they announced that they were doing this, it was super cool. It was this great way to be like, hey, it's not just going to be the modern games. We're going to try to show a little bit of love to the older games, because there's side tournaments and stuff, but obviously those aren't on the mainstream. The mainstreams, those aren't main stage games. And when you make it a main show, right, like a main part of the event, you get to do cool things like, inviting out classic players of those games to either be in the tournament or do commentary or something like that. And it's just like a cool community thing, because there is such a scene for older fighting games, and especially recently with things like Fightcade and a lot of old games getting rollback and stuff, appreciating the actual like history of the genre in the community. And they've been doing this, and I think it's kind of bad. I was thinking about this. It's been like 3 times that they've done it, and every time, I feel like every single time that they do this, you kind of, it doesn't make the games look very good. Like, Marvel 3 got played at Evo, and when you watch a tournament for that game now, like a community tournament, where it's either a ratio system or it's like a low tier tournament or something, it's so cool. You get to see these really neat teams that like you never see usually, really cool little interactions and team compositions, interesting like niche character picks and stuff like that. And then you're playing the game for like real money, like a few $1,000s at least. And it's like, oh no, we are back in 2014. We're back in 2014, and we're running Doom Virgil Morrigan, and or fucking Doom Dante. Sorry, Virgil Dante 0, and we are fucking hitting you with a lightning loop infinite for 3 minutes in the corner. And the game doesn't look that exciting. They did the Third Strike tournament, and you watch like the arcade scene for Third Strike, like you watch arcade VODs or just like random online tournaments or something like that, and people are doing these cool matchups, like, oh my god, Q versus Alex, Hugo versus like Makoto or something, and it's like this kind of interesting. Makoto's not a low tier at all, but Necro versus Remy or something, and it's like, oh shit, like you get to see these cool character specialists pulling out interesting tech and little like matchup knowledge, and maybe they're running kind of a weird super for this matchup or something like that, or it's just cool to see the variety that the game has to offer. And then you see it at Evo, and it's like, we're all playing Yun and Chun-Li, baby. That's the only 2 characters that you're going to be seeing this entire top 8. Let me actually look up Evo Japan Third Strike. Japan 2024. Let's look up. Let's see. Dude, I was joking. The whole fucking top 8 is just Yun, Chun-Li, Yun, Chun-Li, Yun, Yang. One single solitary brave Yang player. He got 8th. Kodai. Shout out Kodai. Or sorry, he was tied for 7th and 8th with a Yun player. And it's like, dude, like you watch the grand final. Like a lot of people don't really watch the pools, right? Or maybe not even the bracket leading up to the finals, but they'll watch like the top 8 or the top 6, right? And the problem with that is when there's a mirror match, if 2 people, right, in the structure, in the like the tournament structure, once you get to the top 8, there's going to be like how many matches is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're watching 10 games. You're watching 10 games in the finals bracket. And 2 characters across 10 games. 10 different matchups. Like straight up, it's gonna be like 3 hours with all the breaks and stuff in between. It's 3 hours of the same 2 characters doing like this. And Yun is a very repetitive fucking character to watch. But Yun and Chun-Li. Yun is just fucking like stand back and do fucking palms and then get hey Chen, and then just like rush down, get hey Chen. And Chun is just like space out and just throw out crouch medium kick, crouch. Oh, I connected it. SA2 over and over again. And like, dude, it is a miserable experience to watch. Like, watch long term. Like, you can stomach like 1 or 2 of those games in a row. But even by the 3rd one, you're like, dude, this is getting a little bit old. And unfortunately, that's kind of just what happens when you're playing for serious money. That's kind of just what happens. Is people care, they're gonna be playing for real. Like, you can't even blame them. Like, what are you gonna play, fucking Q? Are you stupid? Unless you're just doing this to like show off. It's like, no, like, if you're actually seriously competing, you're gonna go serious. And that's kind of like, this actually kind of ties into that Annihilator Cup thing, where I feel like a lot of competitive games shine the best when you have 2 people who are really good, but they're not really playing super, like, they're not like locked in trying to be the greatest of all time. I think any competitive game does really well, like, just to watch, specifically as a spectator. I think it's best as a spectator when you are, you know, it isn't like the same like oppressive strategy over and over and over again, which is why I think a lot of one of the reasons there's sort of a rose tinted glasses aspect to a lot of games, where years after, you know, the new game has come out, people go back to the old one, they're like, oh, this one's so good, Street Fighter 4 is so good. It's like, you weren't saying that when it was just Yun and Elena, you know? I'm sure people are going to go back to Street Fighter 5 and at some point and say like, oh, Street Fighter 5 is so cool. I do think Street Fighter 5 is cool. But when the entire game is Poison and Luke, you know, gets a little repetitive. Like, maybe I want to see a cool character, a cool mid-tier or something. Do some work. When it's the same 4 or 5 characters dominating the top, and you're just watching that for hours and on end in a tournament, it's like, yeah, no, the game gets significantly less fun. That's just kind of how every game is. I don't even know if you can really design around that. There are very few games where I feel like, maybe Plus R, where I feel like playing, because Plus R doesn't, it has top tiers, but there's like a real wide variety. Like, you don't have to play them to win at all. Most games I feel kind of suffer from that. That's just kind of how they shake out. I remember back in like the early 2010s, there was a sort of stigma around playing games competitively. I remember this. There really was like a kind of a stink about, oh, you're like a tryhard, right? That still exists, but with the esports and the money and stuff, there's a lot more acceptance of that idea, and the fact of like ranked modes being so popular now. But I remember there was like a whole deal with like, oh, you're making the game less fun, and there's like definitely there's a point to that, especially if you're playing with people who don't really take it as seriously as you. If you're just going hard and doing the most meta strategy and the most oppressive tactics and all that, it's like, yeah, like kind of ease up on the gas. That's something that I've had to learn, which is like, I did not consider myself very good at fighting games. I'm like, okay, I'm mediocre at them. But if I play it with someone who's like a complete beginner, I have to like really ease up on the gas and kind of like, like you don't tell them that you're letting them win, but like, I'm just not blocking, and like they can't tell. They can't tell. Have I told that story about playing Street Fighter 2 at GDC that one year? I'll tell it again. So when I volunteered with this video game museum from Oakland, 2 years ago now, called the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment. You can check them out in Oakland, California. They're the world's only fully playable video game museum. They're really cool. And I volunteered with them to go to GDC one year, and their whole thing was like, an exhibit with a bunch of different playable games, and some of them had like historical purposes. And then a couple of them were just like, this is just a fun kind of crowd pleaser game that people like. One of them was Street Fighter 2. It was Super Street Fighter 2, so like, we'll take what we can get. And I kind of sat down and I played a lot of Street Fighter 2 with just like random event goers there. Just like random fucking game devs and stuff. Or just people who were there from a company or like from a booth or something. And a lot of them, so here's what's funny. The people who sat down who were like younger, who were like my age, right? And they'd be like, yeah, I play a little bit of like Project M or something, or I'm gonna like Smash, and I play a little bit of like, I think I picked up Strive a little bit. Those guys, like, I had to actually kind of try. I actually had to try. Like, it was a real matchup. They actually kind of knew what they were doing. I'm not an expert in SF2, so we were kind of on equal footing with just, like, basic fighting game knowledge. And then all of the people who were, like, 30 plus who would sit down and they're like, oh, I used to play Street Fighter all the time when I was a kid. Yeah. Dude, they had no idea what they were doing. They had no clue. And when I'm not trying to be a jerk. We're just fucking at like a little industry convention. I'm not trying to like ruin their day and just like shit on them. So I'm just kind of like, sort of intentionally. You kind of ease up on the gas. You play a little bit more passively. You kind of choose not to block. You're sort of like, I'll take this round. I'll let them have this round. You just sort of do stuff like that. And like, they can't tell. They think that it's like a real match. It's like Daigo versus Lupe. And this sounds very egotistical, but this is just like, I don't know, this is just what it's like. Like, I'm trying not to make the experience unfun for them. And I sat down with this guy. This guy sat down with me. And, I recognize like, oh yeah, okay, so I gotta go a little easy. And we start talking. I'm like, hey, so like, what are you guys doing here? And he goes, oh yeah, I'm doing I'm covering all the, I'm a Web3 influencer. And I'm covering all the crypto blockchain stuff here for my YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I fucking stopped easing up on it. I put the pedal to the metal. I was like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. I'm gonna do fucked up, I'm gonna do stuff that's like fucked up to do to like a beginner. Doing like empty jumps and empty jump low and fucking like just throw looping and shit like that. And like, I am being, I'm taking the gloves off. You are not welcome here. I am bullying the fuck out of you for being a crypto influencer at the Game Developers Conference. No one likes you. What was I talking about? I don't know. That's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Yeah, throwback games can sometimes be like, I feel like they might be a bit of a bad idea. And it's hard, like, when you... I think I would love to see, like, a big tournament that was played with a ratio format. It might be kind of hard to enforce on a big scale, but if you don't know, a ratio format was something that was, as far as I know, introduced with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I think it technically, like, the idea originates from Capcom vs. SNK, the first one, where you made a team, but different characters were weighted differently. Like, you basically had, like, 4 points. 4 points to build a team with, and characters could be worth, like, 1, 2, 3, or 4 points, depending on how strong the developers thought they would be. The ratio format is kind of like that, where you have 7 points to build a team in Marvel 2, and the top tiers are like 4 points. And the bottom tiers are either like 1 or like 0 points. Like you're basically handicapping yourself taking them, so you can pick a strong... So that's the idea, is like, okay, you can pick like a top tier, right? But then you have to pick like 2 bottom tier characters, or like low tiers, to try to support them, or try to, like, you're relying on the top tier to carry the weight. And it's a really fun format, because what it actually ends up leading to is a lot of interesting, like, middle, like, around teams made up of characters around the mid tier. And you kind of look at the ratio and, like, okay, what character do I like? Let me start with them. Like, okay, they're like 3 points. Okay, so if I have 4 points, so I can go with like 2 kind of lower tier characters. I can pick like another mid tier, or and like a low and like a bottom tier. But maybe they have like an assist that I can use that's decent. And you start like theory crafting, and then the actual teams themselves are just really interesting. Just stuff that you would normally never see, and cool little synergies that are like, oh shit, yeah, like when you don't have top tiers like Magneto just fucking triangle jumping you to death. The moment the match starts with a fucking 1-frame crouching light kick. When you give the rest of the cast a little bit of room to breathe, the game really kind of flourishes, and it's cool. I would love to see a big tournament done on the scale of EVO, but with a format like that kind of forces people into making, I don't know, just more interesting teams. The difficult thing is that it's kind of hard to... It's hard to do anything like that for just a 1v1 game. Like, I don't know how you would do it with Third Strike. You could say, like, oh, you can't pick this super or something like that, but at that point, it's like people have run, like, whole tournaments, like online tournaments, like, with bad supers. And those are fun. Like, those are kind of charming. Yeah. Ooh, my neck. Yeah, I don't know what the solution is to it. It's just kind of like, I don't know. Unfortunate. I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that we watched. Kat introduced me to Smiling Friends. So, Smiling Friends, for those of you who don't know, is an Adult Swim animated series which is created by... Let me make sure I'm getting this right. I get the names right. Zach Hadel and Michael Cusack, who are better known as Zach Hadel is Psychic Pebbles, and Michael Cusack, is it Cusack or Cusack? And Michael Cusack is wait, what the fuck? Which one is he? I'm actually not super familiar with his stuff. Is he the British one? Oh yeah, he's from Wales. Oh, he's not British. He's Australian. Oh, fuck me. They are Newgrounds animator guys. They're Newgrounds animators. Kat is a big fan of like Oni plays. So she's a big fan of Zach, Psychic Pebbles, and their whole kind of sphere of stuff. So she was into this from the start. I am one of those people who, like, I don't watch things unless she puts them on for me. So I've seen clips of the show, and I was like, I'd probably like this, but I'm not going to watch it. So she put it on for me. And I was like, yeah, no, I actually really love this show. This is a great show. Smiling Friends is a wonderfully charming, very unique feeling show. There's really nothing like it on television because it comes from there's a very distinct Newgrounds kind of flavor to it in lots of little ways. I think in the first episode, the one with Mike Stoklaza in it, there's like a little scene of when like the mom is, they show up to the mom's house. They show up to the house and the mom is like walking them to her son's room to introduce them. And the way that she's animated, her torso is just moving along, like moving in a straight line, but her legs are like rapidly just jittering up and down. And that's such like a low budget internet animation thing to me that just immediately stuck out as like, what's a low budget way that I can animate this that's kind of still like sort of charming and stylistic and memorable. And there's stuff like that all over the show. Weird little gags. Like I just get recommended a clip or something, and it's just fucking two characters like walking through a clothing store, and just randomly while they're walking, like on the other side of the frame, a weird little creature will like peek out from like between some clothes and just like scamper off screen. You're like, what? I didn't even see that the first time. Very short episodes, like 10 minutes long. Just these like short, very punchy. It feels like just extended, like an extended out Newgrounds animation. If you don't, so I guess I can start from like a basic level. Smiling Friends, the premise is it takes place in kind of like a funny, weird little world where there's like regular people, but there's also kind of strange. Reminds me a lot of like Regular Show, where there's this sort of weird looking, funny creature people all over, and kind of feels like anything can just sort of pop up. And the main characters, Charlie and Pim, are employees of a company called the Smiling Friends, and their whole deal is that they get called into situations where someone is upset or someone's sad, and they have to make them smile. And Pim is like the really like happy-go-lucky, like he's super into it. He loves the job. He's just someone who genuinely just wants to make people smile. Charlie is there. Charlie's not a bad guy. He isn't a jerk, but he definitely like, he's a little bit more there for like just to kind of do the job. You know, like he's like, there's a whole episode, there's like a Christmas episode where they have to go do a job on Christmas Eve, and he's like, oh, dude, can we just like get the... Pim is all super excited and happy to be like, oh, we're gonna go jump down a Christmas tree, yeah, this is gonna be so great. And Charlie's like, dude, can we just like get this over? Like, I kind of want to go home. It's like Christmas Eve. I want to go home and like chill out. Like, that's the kind of character he is. Sometimes in contrast to Pim, he might seem a little bit like a jerk, but you look at it and you're like, Charlie's just a regular guy and Pim is just too into it. So they go to these situations, and there's always something like really fucked up. So like there's always something weird or kind of cynical or dark happening. It's got a really interesting tone, and I enjoy it a lot. Because in some ways it's kind of dark and fucked up, and there's like kind of like intentionally weird stuff thrown in there. But it's also a very like wholesome kind of sweet show in a lot of ways. Like, it has a nice heart. It feels like something where if it came out in 2007 on Newgrounds, it would have just been like an edgy, like, you think that it's like this really happy, cute thing, but then, it's really dark and fucked up, actually, and gore and cursing and violence. This feels like a more like matured version of that. This feels like, no, these guys are like not, these guys are not into like, I don't know. They've grown up past that point, I guess. Not to say that their old stuff is bad or anything like. I'm saying like, I can totally see this concept being done in a much less mature way. And here they really managed to stick a really interesting. They managed to stick the landing and create a really interesting kind of tone disparity. That's always just kind of fun to watch because like, you know, like they show like they. The first episode, which is the one most people have probably seen or saw clips from, is like they think they're going to help out a little boy Smile. And they go to his room, like they open the door to his room, and it's like actually an old, like it's a fucking like middle-aged man who just looks like shit. He's completely let himself go, and he's just holding a gun to his head. And that's the twist. Like that's the twist. And again, if this was a Newgrounds animation, this would have ended with him just like shooting himself in the head. And it would have been like, oh, that's so dark. What a dark twist. And it would have been like, also because they had no budget back then and they, you know, animation takes a long time. It would have been like 2 minutes long at most. And then it would have ended with a dark joke twist. And it might have been funny, right? That might have very well have been funny. But here it's like a whole 10-minute episode and it's like a whole story. And no, we're going to... Charlie's like... He's like, I don't really know if we can do anything about this guy. But Pym is so sweet and he's so hopeful that he's like, no, let's give it a try. We're the smiling friends, Charlie. And they go out and they try to have a fun day with him and everything kind of goes wrong. But like the intent is that like it has like a nice heart. That's really what it is that like at its heart, the characters are all like good people. And they all have like positive goals. They aren't like vehicles to tell edgy jokes. They're actual characters who want to do something nice for people. It's just that the world they live in is fucking weird. And again, remember how I talked about contrast in I think the last episode? That's the contrast. Is these things clashing against each other and the conflict. There's a natural conflict between those things that makes you want to see how every episode is going to go. Like, I'm watching these and I have no fucking clue what is going to happen or what the twist is going to be, because the show is really good at setting you up with something and then you kind of think you know where it might go and then it subverts your expectation, but not in like a not in like a Last Jedi kind of way, in a way where it's like you see it and it makes, I don't know, like it makes sense. Like it's for the purpose of a joke or to make the situation more interesting. It subverts your expectation and makes the story more interesting. Whoa, crazy concept. Weird that I'm comparing Smiling Friends to The Last Jedi. I'm not even like a huge Last Jedi hater. It was just the thing that came to mind. I love the visual style. It has a really, I don't know, the like consistent sort of like, what is it? Thin outlines, I suppose, like thin outlines, but then it gets really, the style will really switch up. There's a lot of fun mixed media stuff where like randomly they'll just cut to like a close-up shot and it's like done in claymation or something, or there'll be live action actors put in. It's like a consistently fun show to watch because it feels like you kind of never really know what's going to happen next, both in the plot and just visually. Like a character shows up and he's like CG animated. Oh god, there are so many concepts. Like the episode got there were a lot of clips circulating around from the season 2, I think the first episode of season 2. That was they got pretty popular because the concept is so, dude, it's such a Newgroundsy concept. It's such like an internet-y concept. The whole deal is they have to help a 3D, like a 90s 3D platformer mascot named Gwimbly, who's like out on the streets. He's homeless now because his games are dead and the genre's kind of faded into relative obscurity now. And they have to like help him out. And it's like the specific jokes that they're making, and especially the visual style, dude, they did a great job with the Gwimbly like character model and the specific way that they emulate the PlayStation 1 like polygon wobble. I know there's a term for it. I just cannot remember it for the life of me. It's some like weird technical term. But you know, like the polygon wobble. You'll just see his proportions like slightly change every frame that he moves. It's great. I'd be really curious to know actually how they did it. And just like, I don't know, the jokes that they made, they're so specific and like, no, and it isn't just like reference humor. I feel like you could not really have an idea of what they're referencing or sort of the type of game they're referencing and still find it funny. But just, you can just tell the way that it's written is by people who, I don't know, are actually fans of that. Like, I could see that if that same concept was done by The Simpsons, it would have been like fucking asteroids. It would have been like Space Invaders or something. Or like, what a video game. I don't know. It would have been, you would be so able to tell that these people are like, they're trying to reach out to an audience that like, they're trying to figure it out. You know, it's like your dad putting on like a backwards baseball cap. Here it's like, oh no, they totally get it. Like, this is stuff that they like. And that concept is so, it's funny because I feel like that concept has existed on the internet for forever. Or it's just waiting there, right? I've just never seen it be done on cable. I was going to say network. Never seen it done on television. Yeah, there are parts of the show that made me laugh so hard that like we had to pause it because I was laughing so fucking hard at like some of the jokes. The delivery, the visual gags. Like, I'm laughing right now thinking I don't even want to like spoil what it is. I love the way that the dialogue is. It's extremely conversational. It's really fun because most of the voices are done by like 2 or 3 people. And most of the, a lot of the dialogue, I'd be very curious to know how much of it is ad-libbed or if they just have like general notes or something, or if it's all pre-written and they're just really good at writing like conversational dialogue. Like, you get that little like kind of people talk over each other. People kind of like mumble stuff. The tone is spot on in their delivery. Like, it never feels like they're trying to act. What is it? Acting is acting like you're not acting. And that's what they're doing here. Oh my god, I fucking love this one episode where they have to like call their boss from the airport. And the way that he picks up, and the way, just like immediately, the way he just goes like, yeah, hello? And just, I can't really do it justice. I'd have to listen to it again also. But dude, that's just, it feels like they actually just called a guy. And he's going, oh, geez, okay. Well, it's great. It's a show that's just like consistently, it never drags on for too long. I always feel like really lost. Like, I can never tell how much time has passed. The episode will end and I'm like, oh, that was it? Damn. I feel like that could have gone on. Not in a bad way, but in like, I don't know. I'm always just amused by what's going on. I always want to see what's happening. The second season is airing right now. I can't recommend it enough. I think it's a really funny show. A really funny show with, it feels like really, I don't know, smartly written. Not smart in like, very intellectual, but like they really know how to balance a lot of different conflicting elements in a way that makes it a lot more engaging. That doesn't feel like really dissonant. Where the show never feels weird, right? Where it feels like it just totally breaks its tone. Everything always feels like in line with what they've set up. It's just a crazy show. So yeah, Smiling Friends. Great. Thumbs up from me. We also went to go watch the Garfield movie. This is something Kat has been anticipating for months now, ever since it was announced for a while. She is a Garf girl. She loves Garfield. She showed up. She packed like 4 different Garfield shirts, and she brought her Cowboy Garfield plush, and she was really excited for it. I was fine with it because I didn't pay for the tickets. She had like passes to whatever movie theater or whatever. So we got those. Hey, as long as I'm not paying. So she has dragged me to watch a lot of baby movies over the years. And as far as baby movies go, this one was not bad. Not bad. I wouldn't watch it of my own volition, but there was actually some like pretty decent, a couple decent sight gags and stuff like that, that I thought was kind of amusing. It actually felt like there was some effort put into it, which is sort of surprising. I feel like the trailer kind of makes you go, okay, yeah, we're doing a Garfield movie. But I feel like the storyboarders and the animators actually had some fun with how they, a lot of the visuals, kind of how I felt about the Mario movie, I guess, where I was like, the script is actually also kind of, it's not that bad either. It's definitely a baby movie. There's a movie for babies. And speaking of, oh my God. So it was technically an early screening, which I don't understand what that means. She tried to explain it to me and she's like, well, you see it before it comes out. And I'm like, but it's not like an exclusive access thing. They just screen it. She's like, yeah, you go to a theater, you buy your tickets to go to a theater to watch it, but it's like before the movie comes out. And I'm like, but if you can just go buy tickets to watch it, it's just out. She's like, no, like it's before it releases. I'm like, what do you, if you can go see it, it's released. I don't understand. I don't get what it is. But it was technically an early screening, so there were only like 2 showings of it at our theater that we went to. And we got in, and for some reason we got there like 45 minutes early because Cat loves being there Cat loves being places before God has woken up to start his day. And we just kind of saw all the different families coming in, and there was like at least one family, and you could tell from the questions that their kid was asking that this was like his first movie. He had never been to a movie theater before. And that was actually kind of cute. That it was kind of interesting. Just be like, huh, okay. Like he was like, wow, it's scary in here. It's really dark. And he just like didn't know what was going on, and I don't know. That was like I kind of had that in the back of my head the whole time, like, huh. So like this is your first movie. The first movie I ever went to in theaters, I believe, was The Incredibles when it came out. I was super young. That's like a 2004 movie, right? The Incredible. Yeah, 2004. So I was like 2? Is the movie 2 hours? Yeah, it is. That seems right. So I was 2 years old. October. Okay, I was like 2, almost 3. And I don't remember anything about going to see it, except for the fact I remember the mall that we went to. Because the mall, it was like an open mall, and there was like a little play area with like sand, and there was like a stone statue of like a lung dragon that was like like go up and in and out of the sand and stuff, and that was super epic because dragons are cool. And that's like the only thing I remember from going to see it. So I guess this kid was like a little bit older. I don't know. I couldn't tell. I couldn't even see them. But I could certainly hear him. And you know what's funny? It was a pretty good crowd. You're like, oh, a baby movie. All the babies are going to be screaming and yelling during it. No. It's one of the better crowds I've been to, honestly. Like pretty quiet. Pretty, I would say respectful. Some well-behaved kids in that crowd. Good job. Good job, parents who took their kids to the Garfield movie showing that we went to. What is it? Oh yeah. Okay, so if you watch the trailer, I'd seen the trailer in like previews and stuff. The whole premise is like Garfield's dad, who he abandoned him as a little kitten, is coming back. There's like a new character for this movie. A new Garfield lore. A retcon. And Garfield hates his dad. And fucking someone, you know. Dear Garfield, I'm sorry that man is your father. Meet the Arbuckles. Bum 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 ba-da, bum 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 ba-da. So the movie it's actually a heist movie, which I wasn't expecting. The whole thing is that Garfield's dad comes back into his life because he's being extorted by an evil cat, an evil British cat, and her two funny dog henchmen, who I really like the big wrinkly like bulldog I think he's supposed to be. Like he has this, there's like an absurd, he's huge and absurdly wrinkly. And there's a lot of like little gags with that. It's kind of funny. And they have to go rob a giant dairy factory of like 1,000 pounds, not pounds, 1,000 like liters of milk or something like that. To like pay off this evil cat. And it's actually just like not a buddy, but they clash and they don't like each other, but then they like kind of make up, and then there's like this gigantic heist sequence. It's so weird. It's like most of the movie, and it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Like I said, do I have that much to say about it besides the basic plot? The visuals are fine. Who actually animated this? Garfield Movie. Was this Sony? Sony Pictures. Distributed by. Was it animated? Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it's a Sony movie. And, yeah, visually fine. Musically fine. I immediately noticed. So what's so weird is that Samuel L. Jackson plays Papa Garfield. And I didn't even notice that. I didn't even realize that until the credits rolled. But there's like a cameo by Snoop Dogg, and I immediately picked out that guy's voice. Instantly. Oh yeah, Chris Pratt as Garfield is fine. He's fine. I feel like it would have been fun to get like a corpse like Bill Murray into the studio. I feel like he was actually a pretty good voice of Garfield. Chris Pratt does fine. Production companies: Columbia, Alcon. There's like 1,000. There's like 1,000 production companies in front of this movie. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Let's see. Pratt was also director Mark Dindal's first choice to voice Garfield, believing, quote, he had been imagining Pratt's voice coming out of Garfield for years. That's fascinating. That's one of those things where you're like, is that true? I almost don't believe you. Yeah. So if you have kids, you can average rating. It's like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow. Okay, people does not like us. A video game spin-off is set to be released in 2024. Oh my god. I'm just glancing at the Wikipedia page. If you have babies, they might enjoy it. I think it's kind of funny. I always think it's kind of funny when like grown adults watch a baby movie and they're like, not very funny. It's like, how am I gonna be like? It's like literally the exact same thing I had with the Mario movie, where I'm like, yeah, like, is it the most amazing thing in the world? No, but it's also like, it's made to be accessible for like 6-year-olds. Like, am I gonna be mean to it? It's fine. I might be like, this is a very boring plot. No. Before I wrap up, I do want to talk about a looming threat, a looming gulp. I probably should have talked about this earlier. I usually talk about news stuff earlier in the podcast. IGN made an acquisition for the Gamer Network family of digital brands. You might have never heard of Gamer Network, but you've probably heard of some of their publications. It's a gaming journalism news outlet, digital brand thing, whatever. You get it. It's a network. And they actually had some publications that I actually like. GamesIndustry.biz, Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, VG247, and Dicebreaker, who I'm assuming is like tabletop gaming. They also have shares in Outside Xbox, Digital Foundry, and Hookshot, who operate Nintendo Life, Push Square, Pure Xbox, and Time Extension. Of these, now, of course, when something gets acquired now, I feel like it's really funny how in the wake of the Microsoft slaughter, people have like completely woken up to the fact that like, oh man, getting acquired is a little, maybe don't, which I think is a good thing. I think it's probably a good thing. And it's funny how fast that turnaround has been, where a lot of people had like kind of meh. A lot of people didn't really have an opinion on it, and now they do, and it's negative. So yeah, the idea that they're being acquired is a little concerning. And I say this because everyone rolls their eyes at IGN, but GamesIndustry.biz, generally pretty good. Eurogamer does some actual good reporting. VG247, also some pretty good reporting. I'm not familiar. I haven't really read Rock, Paper, Shotgun. I haven't read Dicebreaker. I know some people who like Nintendo Life and Time Extension. Obviously, Digital Foundry has a pretty big YouTube channel. So, I mean, I imagine. So here's like the unfortunate thing, is that there is like no money in online journalism. There is like zilch. Especially for anything that is not super mainstream establishment, because online advertising is like the main thing that keeps, these outlets afloat. The problem is that online advertising actually is kind of worthless. People have kind of woken up to the fact that specifically like investors have sort of realized that online advertising is not nearly as fruitful as it was once assumed to be. So the sort of business model has been kind of floundering over the last 20 years. And they're sort of, it's in a great state of flux. And on one hand, there's like a give and take to it. It's led to this sort of unfortunate position where a lot of outlets have to do kind of like lame shit to survive. It's been bemoaned for a while how a lot of games journalism is really just access journalism. It's just showing you a preview, showing you this, showing you that. And that leads to some conflicts of interest, right? There's like the infamous, was it IGN? Was it IGN or GameSpot? That, why? Oh God, I should be able, I'm thinking about it. Giant Bomb founder. Oh my God, Jeff Gerstmann. Gerstmann. Is it? It's not Gerstmann. It's Gerstmann. Yeah. Who worked for GameSpot back in the day, and then Kane and Lynch 2 came out, and they had Kane and Lynch 2. Or was it the first game? I don't know. One of the Kane and Lynch games came out, and they had giant Kane and Lynch ads all over the website, and then he rates a review saying, "Yeah, it's like a 6 out of 10. It's not bad. It's a little above average. It's fine." And they fired him. And that was like, oh God, okay, so and that was back in like 2011. At least? Oh no, 2008. Okay. That was 2008. And like, that's the kind of stuff that sort of access journalism leads to. And it's unfortunate because the benefits of having like kind of an established media is that those are actual like representatives who can kind of distill information or you can go to someone with that information. Something like YouTube is great, and it's great that everyone gets like kind of an independent voice, but it's also kind of hard to organize, and it's kind of chaotic, right? It is nice to have an outlet where it's like, okay, a publisher always knows like where to send footage or where to send news or where to get releases, or to have kind of like a slightly elevated position of someone who's actually able to be like, hey, I'm representing this company. Can I do an interview or something like that? Those do definitely have their benefits. But the downsides are definitely like, yeah, you do have to like kind of scrape. They have to like do some kind of lame stuff to scrape by. So there's been a serious lack of money in it for a while. And so even like, again, like a couple of these outlets that IGN acquired, I think are good. Like, I think that they are genuinely, I've read a lot of really good reporting. I'm sure you can like cherry pick and find stuff they've done that isn't great. But like you can do that with every single news outlet. Everyone's got some stinkers. Hopefully this doesn't result in them shutting down. This article is from gamesindustry.biz. So this guy's reporting on his own job. Yeah. So slightly concerning. I remember talking to Molly in our interview, and she was talking about how, the stuff that she does with the Walmart magazine is like, that's like the only way they can find to like justify doing anything in print is if it's like a free, basically promotional thing. And thankfully they get like a decent amount of freedom because there isn't like a ton of oversight in it. With like what they get to cover. So that's like, yeah, you almost have to find like these alternative routes to actually get by or get any kind of living writing or doing anything about video games. So a little bit concerning. I hope that they don't get laid off and shuttered, because it would genuinely be kind of a shame, because there's some actual good reporting that comes out of those outlets, like actual industry stuff. So here's hoping. And with that, on a hopeful note, I'm going to bring this podcast to a close. If you have been listening this far, thank you for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, feel free to leave it down in the comments below, but please phrase it in the form of a question. I've been Tygan. I am working on the next video right now. I'm recording footage. It's on a specific game. You're probably going to roll your eyes when you hear about it, when you see the video. And check out the Gizmondo video that I just put out. I have a Patreon. I think that's it. Bye.